Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Dan, Donna, Dana, and Greg. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. The battle over what the president is now calling the crazy Mueller report is far from over. Trump ripping negative claims in it as, quote, fabricated and totally untrue. He's also tweeting that because he never agreed to testify, it was not necessary for me to respond to statements made in the report about me, some of which are total BS and only given to make the other person look good or me to look bad. This was an illegally started hoax that never should have happened. And on the other side, Democrats are in total denial. House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler has subpoenaed the unredacted Mueller report, and he and other left-wing Democrats are also refusing to accept reality.
If the special counsel, as he made clear, had found evidence exonerating the president, he would have said so. He did not. He left that issue to the Congress of the United States.
The Mueller report outlines disturbing evidence that President Trump engaged in obstruction of justice and other misconduct.
The truth of the matter is, he probably should not be the president of the United States, but for the Russian intervention.
Because Attorney General Barr wants to represent Donald Trump, I think he should resign.
Then there's the liberal media melting down. They're still trying to claim collusion exists.
They wanted to conspire. They just never found the right opportunity to do so.
I look at this evidence, and it sure looks like obstruction of justice to me.
If there was an active collusion proven, then I think what we have here is a case of passive collusion.
The chapter on collusion shows significant contact between people on the Trump campaign and with the Russians.
I'm not going to let people say that, CNN or the media or whatever have been creating a false narrative. Yep. This report is plenty of proof that the questions that have been asked repeatedly were legit.
It is funny to hear the media, Greg, claim that they're vindicated after the Mueller report.
I don't blame them. I mean, it is embarrassing for them what they've been through. I don't. They have to go out there, and face the audience that they lied to for so long. Every person that used the word bombshell, they need to have them go to a giant chalkboard and write bombshell 10,000 times. Because remember, we kept hearing bombshell.
Like The Simpsons.
Exactly. Here's a summary. Okay, the first, this report was about one question: did Trump collude with the Russians? It wasn't about meddling, because we already knew there was meddling. It was about collusion. The answer is no. So then you have an investigation to answer that question, which was kind of ginned up over anger over the loss of the election. There wasn't any evidence, but they decided to do it anyway. And then what the investigation did was create what's called proof out of a series of unconnected instances and events that each by themselves means nothing. So now you have part two. I know, but let me finish. So part two is nothing but this collection of stuff you already knew about Trump. That he's mad, that he has meetings, that he wants to fire people, that he wants to hire people. Nothing that's against the law. That investigation creates the belief that that somehow is illegal. It's a complete sham. The first part answered the question, but they still had to do the second part anyway. Makes no sense to me.
Well, I read a lot of the summaries, but I'm taking this home to Louisiana because I think it's worth reading before we start responding to or making spurious allegations about what's in it. It is thorough. It is deeply sourced. And what I like about the way that the special counsel handled it is that he addressed all of these important, pertinent questions about the Russian interference and meddling. And while there was no so-called collusion, which no one ever defined.
Or literal collusion.
But there was a lot of penetration. Okay?
Wait, were you reading the same report?
Yes.
That was a Star report.
No, I was too young to have read that one. But there was a lot.
I got the audiobook.
Oh, baby. There was a lot of Russian whoever that tried to make contact with the Trump campaign, and guess what? The Trump campaign wanted the information, but there was no collusion, all right? But it's worth the read, because if you want to protect our democracy, if the president wants to clear the air, then let Congress complete its job. Have a little oversight. It will not mess with your baseball season, I swear, Jesse.
But to me, my only point is, I agree, read it. The media should not be trying to criminalize casual behavior. That's what they're doing with part two.
It didn't seem like they were thinking about protecting the democracy. I mean, if you now know that the president of the United States, Democrats president, Republicans president, wasn't a traitor and wasn't an asset of Putin, you should be happy about that.
Right.
But instead, they're just cherry picking it and said, oh, this was happening, so they haven't really grasped that, Dana. It seems like everybody's just kind of seeing it for what they saw it before it was released.
A little bit, just as remember it was June 16th, 2015, when President Trump came down the escalator and announced he's going to run for president.
The greatest day ever,
Every
Dana.
story since then has been about him. Every
Right.
news cycle is about him, and ever since this report came out, it's still all about him.
Right.
But the main headlines, to me, were like buried in there. I'm like, the Russian interference was deeper and broader than we thought. There was an ability for the hackers from the GRU to be able to get into a Florida voting computer.
That's right.
Didn't change any of the outcome, but they were able to do it. And I wonder about this. In addition to the origins of the investigation into the Trump campaign, why isn't anybody asking Obama, Brennan, Clapper, like, how could you let this get this far? Why were you
Exactly.
not? You were responsible for protecting the election integrity of the United States. And I think that might be a question of, this was a catastrophic failure. Aside from the fact that you didn't want to look like you were putting your thumb on the scale for the campaign, why did you fail to protect us better?
I could tell you the little bit I know. In terms of the DNC, and we were informed of what was happening. But it was too late because the Russians had already spent almost a year inside of our systems. And by the time we got to it, we were wiped out, and
But
we
again,
didn't know.
but a year before that, what happened
I
then?
wasn't chair, so I cannot speak
And
to that
didn't
effect.
also that you guys never actually handed over the server that was hacked?
We handed over a replica because
A replica?
But it was
How do
certified.
you replicate a server?
But
You
take
can't
that aside.
replicate
Like,
because
forget
we
the-
had to figure out. And you see, that's another thing. This report goes into deep analysis of what happened, that they did get the information they needed to establish that it was the Russian, that it was the GRU, and the replica was necessary. Had we turned over our brains, we would not have any legs to stand
Can I just
on.
add, can I
It
add
was
just one
bad
other
enough
thing? Is
that
that
we
you
were
weren't
hacked.
the DNC was not in charge of protecting Florida's election system, right? That is not anything that you
Homeland
have
Security. And let me
Homeland
just
Security.
say
So, and
this.
that's what my question would be. If we're just asking the government for accountability, like, what happened there?
All right, let's get Dan in here.
Well, here's my problem with this whole case, right? This is, as Greg summed up, this could have been summarized on an index card, not a 400-page report. There's no collusion. I'm sorry I wasted all of your time. Bob Mueller. That should have been the entire Mueller report. Instead, we have a $30 million opinion piece written, which, by the way, lays out, yes, that the Russians don't like us. No surprise, they've never liked us. But leaves out conveniently the one documented instance of known collusion we have. A foreign spy paid for on the record by Hillary Clinton's team who says he got information from Russians. How is that not in a report on Russian collusion? This is not a ridiculous question if you're a rational person.
That's why the ball is in Congress court. Congress has the ability
But
to.
why isn't it in the report, though?
There's a lot of
It's
stuff
not in there.
I don't think Congress
There's
is
a
going
lot
to
of
chase that
stuff.
ball, though.
Yeah, but that's not in there.
Congress should chase it. And you know what, Dan?
good image.
At the time, nobody believed it was the Russians. That's why more than 56 pages of the first 100 and some odd pages is about they established it was the Russians. Because remember, people didn't believe it at the time.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think a lot of people understood these are our foes, and they were always trying to mess with us. It's a mutually destruction kind of intel thing. I don't think they were targeting one specific party. The problem we had with it is, yes, if we're interested in the Russians trying to hurt our democracy, why does the angle of disinformation to the Hillary Clinton campaign not interest any entrepreneurial journalist out there? Why is nobody looking into this? By the way, the New York Times, I think, is finally starting to come around to that story, that they may have been screwed over by Russian disinformation. The Democrats.
Ooh, the New York Times.
I'm hearing some rumors.
You're hearing rumors about the Times.
Yes, I saw a piece of the Daily Caller that even the Times is starting to say, hey, maybe we missed this angle.
I like the Daily Caller is now reporting on the New York Times. I love this.
The Daily Caller broke the Stefan Halper story.
You're right.
But why did President Trump, then candidate Trump, each and every day say, come on, I want more WikiLeaks. I want more information.
Because that's
I want more dirt.
Donna, that's what Trump does when he gets up. I mean, that's when I said about the part 2 and the obstruction. We know who. We got a $30 million book report on Donald Trump's behavior. But the thing is, what the media is going to do is they're going to take absence of evidence and they're going to say that doesn't mean innocence.
Right.
It's going to mean he's guilty.
But Greg, what's worse though? Think about it. Like Hillary Clinton paid behind the scenes to get negative information. Trump in front of the cameras just said like, "Hey, WikiLeaks, you got some stuff." I mean, really, what's worse? I mean, Hillary actually paid for the information and got it. I mean, I don't get the double standard.
I think she should run again, and they could settle this in a debate.
Rematch.
Yes.
All right. That's
Donna,
what
you
America
don't like
deserves.
that.